All right, thank you guys for being here today. I sent most of y'all a questionnaire, and so some of y'all filled it out, some did not. And so that's all right. We're all brothers and sisters here, and so we'll have to answer for our actions one day. That's all right. I'm going to talk about the conversion of the Apostle Paul. I'm going to inform you very briefly on that. The Apostle Paul is one of the most influential writers and theologians in the New Testament period. His letters have helped win many souls for the Lord and also help those souls mature into the image of Jesus Christ himself. And so the reason you should be more informed about Paul's conversion is because how important it is that we all as Gentiles, I don't believe we have any Jews here today, but we all as Gentiles have heard the gospel because of the initial calling for Paul from the Lord. And that calling would not have happened without his conversion happening first. And so in order to better understand the importance of Paul's conversion, one must know certain events before, during, and after this significant event in his life. So I've read and studied many amazing scholars and theologians and their thoughts and studies of this event in the history of Paul's life. So Paul was not always who we know him to be from his letters to the churches in the New Testament. Before he was Paul, his name was actually Saul, named after the first king of Israel. And so Saul was a devout Jew who studied under a very strict Pharisee, and so he knew a lot about the law of the Old Testament. Saul was one of the biggest persecutors of the Way, which was the early New Testament church, and devoted much of his time into persecuting them, seizing them for prison, and even giving permission to kill some of them, like Stephen, one of the first ever deacons of the church. But that way of life for Saul quickly changed one day on the road to Damascus to do further persecution to the church. Saul had gotten permission to go to Damascus, the capital of Syria, which had a huge population of Jews, including Hellenistic believers who fled from persecution. This was to bring back any followers of the Way. So Paul went to Damascus to persecute them, bring them back, put them in prison. On Saul's journey, he saw a flash of light and a vision of Jesus Christ asking him, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" For Saul did not understand the relationship with Jesus and his bride, that if Saul persecutes the church, he also persecutes the Lord as well. And so Saul was blinded as he awaited for a disciple of Christ, Ananias, to come give instruction to him. This blindness should not be understood as a punishment type, but instead as a result of the intensity of his encounter with Christ. And so R. Kent Hughes said in a book that the great hunter who was going to wreak havoc on the Damascus church entered Damascus, led by the hand, blind, weak, and as a child, not as Paul intended to go. And so this is the moment that we understand the full importance of Paul's conversion for the church and the Gentiles. Ananias, knowing who Saul was and his mission of persecution, got a vision from Christ telling him to go and pray over Saul so he can regain his sight. It was at this moment that the Lord revealed the ultimate plan for Saul and the future of the church, telling Ananias in Acts 9, chapter 9, verse 15, "Go, for he, Paul, is, or Saul at the moment, is a chosen instrument of mine to carry out my name before the Gentiles and kings and the children of Israel." Ananias follows the instructions of Christ and does what he is told. Acts tells us that at the moment Ananias prays over Saul, something like scales fall from his eyes and he is baptized, and then he eats to regain his strength. From this moment on in the book of Acts, Saul shared the gospel with Jews and Gentiles and planted many churches to those who had never heard of the name of Christ. This is why the conversion of Saul into Paul is so important for us. It shows us that no matter where we came from, Christ is enough to save you and your life eternally. It shows how the events of our lives and others accomplish the plans of the Lord, and also shows us how important not only the nation of Israel was, but all nations are loved and to be part of the plan of salvation.